welcome back. So, we are going to finish up Chapter 1, Section 3's notes in this video. In the last video, we talked about how to turn English words into math and math back into words. In this video, we're pretty much just going to do a grab bag of just basic solving equations techniques. Who knows what you've retained since the last time you've been in a school building. It has been a while, so I'm not going to assume anything. So let's go through these few problems together, and hopefully by the end of the video, you're a little more comfortable solving some equations. So here we go. First example for this video, example 5 in the notes. Wants us to solve 18 equals 1/2 t, and it wants to make sure that we get the right answer, so when we get something, we'll check our solution. Now, I am not one of those teachers that says there has to be one way to do a problem. There are several different ways of getting the right answer here to find out what t is, right? That's what we're trying to do here. When it says solve, we're trying to find out what number t is. That being said, if you do it some off-the-wall way, I'll probably want some explanation as to how you figured that out. But there are multiple ways of doing this, and it really depends on how comfortable you are with fractions, which way you want to tackle this. If you're like me and you don't really like fractions, you're not going to want to divide both sides by 1/2, because what does dividing by 1/2 even mean? Then you've got a fraction and a fraction. It can be a little confusing. So, when I see a fraction like this in an equation, my first instinct is to get rid of it. So let me just copy down the equation here. 18 equals 1/2 t. And to get rid of the equation 1/2, I could multiply by 2. Right? And if I multiply this 1/2 by 2, well, what's 2 times 1/2? That's going to be 1. That's not a fraction anymore. So we're going to multiply this by 2, but the way equations work, you can't just multiply one thing by 2. You have to multiply both sides of the equation by the same thing. So we're going to multiply everything here by 2. And I'll do it this way, just to be super clear. We're multiplying both sides of the equation by 2. Anything you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So, it turns out we're actually multiplying 2 times 18 on this side. 2 times 18 is 36. And that's equal to what we said when we multiply 2 times 1/2, that's going to give us 1. We don't have to write the 1. It's there. And we've already multiplied 2 times 1/2, so we don't also need to multiply 2 times t. We've used this 2 already. So the only thing left on this side is t. Right? If you have 1/2 t and you multiply that by 2, that gives you 1t, or just t. So it turns out t is 36. If you were a little more comfortable with your fractions, another way you could do this, let's see here. Let's use this. So if you had 18 equals 1/2 t, you could divide both sides by 1/2. I'm not recommending this for you guys, but if this is easier to you, fine. The 1/2s on that side are going to cancel out. So you're just going to have t on this side. On this side, you have 18 divided by 1/2. Dividing by 1/2 is the same thing, actually, as multiplying by 2. So this is still 18 times 2, which is 36. So either way, you get the answer the same. It doesn't matter which way you do it. There are probably other ways that might not be as quick. I would try doing it one of those 2 ways. But to check your solution, the way to do that is to just plug your answer in to the original equation and make sure it works. So 18 equals 1/2 t, 18 equals 1/2, and we're saying t is 36. So I'm plugging 36 in for t, and we're going to make sure these two sides equal each other. half of 36 is 18. So we get 18 equals 18, and that tells us we got the right answer. Perfect. Good start. Not too bad of an equation to start off with there. So let's move to our next example here. Example 6 wants us to solve this. This might look a little intimidating because there is a lot of stuff going on here, but we've actually seen problems like this before. Do you remember how to distribute? We're using the distributive property here. It's just there's an equation here now. There's an equal sign. So I think we can agree there's nothing really that we can do on this side of the equal sign. So we'll just keep it the way it is, 53 equals. But on this side, here we can take the 3 and distribute. 3 times y is 3y. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And we can also distribute this negative 2 to both of these terms. So we've got negative 2 times 3y. That's negative 6y. And then negative 2 times negative 1. Negative times negative makes positive. 2 times 1 is 2. Positive 2. So all we've done to get from here to here is distribute a couple times. From here, again, our goal is to solve this, so we want to know what number y is that makes this true. I think we can combine like terms here. Right? This is very similar to what we used to do. The only difference is there's an equal sign separating the two sides. But on this side, we can combine like terms. We can put the 3y and the negative 6y together. Again, there's nothing we can do on the left side, so we can just copy that down. But on this side, we're putting the y terms together. 3 minus 6. If we're on the number line, we're at 3. This is 0. 3 is here. We're subtracting 6, so we're going back this way. That's to negative 3. So we have negative 3y. And then we can put together the negative 6 and the positive 2. Negative 6 plus 2. Think of your number line again. 0 is here. You're starting at negative 6, way over here. But you're adding 2, getting closer to 0. That gives you negative 4. Okay? So when you have an equation, you can still combine like terms, but only on the same side of the equal sign. Notice we did not in any way combine this 53 with these two things. Since it's on the other side of the equal sign, it stays where it is. So now we have this, and at this point, this is a two-step equation, so that we can solve for y. We want to try and get the y by itself on this side of the equal sign. And the easiest thing to do first from here, since this doesn't have a y, let's move it over with the 53. So since this is a minus 4, we need to add 4 to both sides here. So those are going to cancel out. I always like canceling out first before I write anything else down here. 53 plus 4 is 57. And that equals, the only thing left on this side is negative 3y. What's really nice about this being virtual and a video is that if I'm going too fast and you miss a step, you can rewind the video and see it again. Or you can pause it whenever you want. That's actually better than in a classroom where I can only go at one speed and then you either get it or you don't. So feel free to pause or rewind the video whenever you need to. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean that you can't do this on your own. Sometimes you just need some extra time. So feel free to do that if I'm going too fast. I try not to, but sometimes I get carried away. To get the y by itself now, y is being multiplied by negative 3. The most common mistake I see for people trying to get the y by itself here is they try to add 3 to both sides to cancel out this negative 3. Just because this is a negative sign doesn't mean there's subtraction happening here. This is negative 3 times y. So to get that -3 over here, if there's multiplication happening, we need to divide both sides by -3. That's how we get the -3 to cancel out. Right? So if you've always had trouble with that, try and get it to stick this time. Okay? If you have -3 times a letter, divide both sides by -3 to move it over. These will then cancel out. Just the -3s. The y is still here. So this is y. And on this side we have 57 divided by -3. That's going to be, well, I know it's negative. And I might want to pull out my calculator at this point, just to make sure. But I know that that is -19. Yes, I did not just have to look at my notes to make sure that that was right. Y is -19. Okay. So, maybe it's a little easier now that we've gone through the steps. But, just a reminder, from here, the first step was just distributing. That got us here, then we combine like terms to get here, and that's all about getting that y by itself. If you've had trouble solving equations like this in the past, hopefully going through it this way makes a little more sense. We will have a couple more examples in these notes, but then when you're asked to do the problems on your own, if you find that you're struggling, feel free to contact me. I will help you out. That is my job. I can do it through email. I can send you pictures helping you through problems. We can Zoom if you want one-on-one help live. Anything you need. That's why I'm here. So, let's move on to multiple choice problem 4, which means I have to scroll this down a little bit. My apologies. There we go. Multiple choice problem 4. We've got a little bit of a word problem here, but I'll tell you what. The more of these videos you watch, the more word problems we do, hopefully you're getting a little better at it. Right? I'm not expecting you to pause the video right now and try starting this one on your own, but if you did, that would be pretty cool. Especially if you got all the way to the answer. That would be amazing. But, in case you don't feel like doing that, which is fine, let's go ahead and start it. And word problem, gonna do the same thing I always do. We're gonna go slowly. We're gonna write down important information as we come across it in the problem. And if a picture would help, we'll draw a picture. That should help us get to where we need to be. So let's see here. The formula for the perimeter of a rectangle. I'm going to stop right there. The perimeter of a rectangle. Okay, there's a shape that we're talking about here, so I'm definitely drawing a rectangle right now. It may or may not help me to solve the problem, but what the heck, I can draw a rectangle. And we want to know about the perimeter. You kind of need to know what the perimeter is if you're going to draw it like this. Okay, the perimeter is what you get when you add the 4 sides together. Cool. So it gives us the formula for that is P equals 2L plus 2W. 2L plus 2W. P is the perimeter. I'm going to write this over here. P equals perimeter. L is the length. And W is the width. Okay. So, if like this is L and this is W, this is L, this is W, that's where the formula comes from. If we're adding all these sides together, that's going to be 2 L's and 2 W's. So that just tells us where the formula comes from. We didn't necessarily have to write this, but it didn't hurt. It only took a little bit. So what is this formula solved for W? That's what it's asking here. The formula solved for W. What that means is we want to mess with this to get the W by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and write that over here. Get W by itself. That's what we need to do here. So it's kind of similar to what we were doing in these 2 examples. We're getting a letter by itself. The only difference with this problem is there are other letters involved. All that means is There's still going to be all these letters when we're done. As long as this letter is by itself, we'll get what we want. So, if we want to get the W by itself, we should move any term on this side that doesn't have a W over. So this 2L needs to move. And since it's a positive 2L, we need to subtract 2L from both sides of the equals sign. Okay, don't subtract 2L from here and here. When you're moving it over here, that means you have to do it to the other side of the equals sign. Okay. The 2L's are going to cancel. On this side, you're going to have P minus 2L equals. The only thing left over here is plus 2W, positive 2W. So if I just write 2W there, it's positive. We don't have to write the plus sign there. So this is what we have. We're very close, actually, already at getting what we want, which is this. All we need to do is move this 2. So what do we need to do with it? Well, this is 2 times W. This is multiplication. So to get the W to move, we have to do the opposite of multiplication. Divide both sides by this 2. Those 2's are going to cancel out now. And I'm just going to write down what we have. P minus 2L over 2 on this side equals W. W's by itself, right? I know there are still letters all over the place, but this is solved for W. The W is by itself. Is this one of the answers on the sheet? Yes, it looks like letter C. Letter C actually has these two sides flipped. It has W equals P minus 2L over 2. That means the same thing. So this is letter C. And that's that one. Now, give me just a sec. I'm going to edit out me writing the last example on the board so we can go ahead and get started. Okay, last example for this video. Multiple choice problem 5 down there at the bottom. If 4g plus 5 equals 17, what is the value of 4g minus 2? So, as with any of the problems that we've done in this video, there are multiple ways of doing this correctly. There are faster ways and not so fast ways. There are good ways and not so good ways. I'm not necessarily going to teach you the fastest way to do this because I think it's a little more difficult to understand. I think what will work for most people is something that'll take a few more steps, but the steps are relatively easy and they relate to what we've already done. Okay, so if you can think of a different way to do this, fantastic. As long as you get the right answer, we're good. But I think this is what we have, and this is what we want to know. This question is similar to something like solve this. When it says solve this, we usually want to get the letter is equal to a number. The only difference here is it's not asking us to solve for g. It wants to know what 4g minus 2 is. But if we find out what g is equal to, can't we just plug that in here and then figure this out as the last step? That's what we're going to be doing here. Okay, we're going to solve this equation for g, get the g by itself, and then once we know what g is, we'll plug it in here and see what we get. So it's just one extra step added on to the end. So let's try it. Actually, if you want to try it, you can pause the video. I'm just going to write this. If you think you can solve this for g and get that g by itself, go ahead, pause the video, do that. Come back when you're done. If you think you've got it, you can even fast forward through me doing it, because if you know how to do it, you don't have to listen to me. So go for it if you want to. All right, so here we go. We want to get the g by itself. So any term that doesn't have a g on this side should move over first. So this 5 needs to move. Since it's a plus 5, we should subtract 5 from both sides of the equal sign. like that. These 5s will cancel. So all we have left here is 4g equals 17 minus 5 is 12. So 4g equals 12. You might already know what g is at this point, but if not, you can still divide both sides by 4. Right? We're still dividing here because this is 4 times g. They're being multiplied. So to move that 4 to get the g by itself, you have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. The 4's cancel out. There's just g on this side, and it equals 12 over 4 is 3. For most solving equations problems, once you get g equals 3, you would be done. But remember, in this problem, it's not asking what g is. What is the value of 4g minus 2? So we need to take this value of g and plug it in there to see what we get. So let's do that. 4g minus 2. I'm just going to plug in the 3 where g goes. Minus 2. Okay, simple. We multiply 4 times 3 first, that's 12. Minus 2. 12 minus 2 is 10. There you go. Okay. So, hopefully you're a little more comfortable after seeing these examples solving some equations, right? Especially ones like this one. If you could understand how this works, you're going to be pretty good on almost any equation, right? Most of them are going to be simpler. Some of them are going to be as simple as this one you get here. It's just this example had those extra steps at the end, right? So that's it for section 1.3. The material on this video and the one before, you're going to have a few problems to work through on your own. You're going to have to turn words into math into words, and solve some equations like these. So again, if you're working on those and you start having trouble, please let me know. Shoot me an email. I'll help you out. Trust me, I think you'll believe it's worth it. It's better than you sitting there and struggling. So, I guess I will see you in the next video in the next section. Until then, have a great day.